L'interview d'AVALLA que vous allez entendre, je l'ai mise en boîte vendredi. C'est une interview que j'avais construite au départ en 2 parties. Une première partie consacrée au virage de Paris Eternal. Pourquoi, comment, pourquoi telle ou telle décision, qu'elle soit financière ou sportive, et aussi qui a pris ces décisions. Bref, qu'on comprenne en quelque sorte ce qui nous échappe. Et là, je pense principalement au sort réservé à Ben, Sun, Nico, mais on aurait pu aussi parler des Coréens qui avaient parfaitement performé la saison dernière. Moi, je voulais qu'on comprenne ça pour pouvoir ensuite passer à autre chose. Cette première partie, elle me semblait ultra nécessaire, pour ne pas dire indispensable, afin de purger les dossiers qui traînent et surtout d'éclairer le plus grand nombre. On explique, on assume, les gens comprennent ou pas, adhèrent ou pas, sont convaincus ou pas, mais ensuite on peut regarder devant. La deuxième partie de l'interview était consacrée au Paris Eternal 2021. La construction du nouveau roster, l'organisation des trials, les ambitions de Paris, etc., etc. Ça, c'était le projet de départ. Le mien, en tout cas. Mais jeudi, AVALLA m'a informé qu'elle ne voulait pas ou qu'elle ne pouvait pas, on peut l'entendre comme ça, qu'elle ne souhaitait pas, en tout cas pour le moment, parler d'un certain nombre de dossiers. Les départs des Français, les départs des joueurs coréens notamment. Et que l'interview serait donc recentrée sur le roster et l'année 2021. Alors moi, je lui ai dit ce que j'en pensais, que l'attente était forte, les questions sans réponse encore nombreuses, et qu'à mon avis, on ne réglait pas une question en n'y répondant pas. Mais AVALLA, elle a ses contraintes. Et ça, je l'entends, elle n'est pas libre de tout dire. Paris a sa ligne de conduite, sa ligne de communication. Là-dessus, on pourrait discuter pendant des heures. En tout cas, aujourd'hui, c'est comme ça, elle doit faire avec, et donc moi aussi, j'ai dû faire avec. Donc je ferai ce préalable, et je vous mets en garde, entre guillemets, pour être transparent avec vous, et puis pour éviter derrière qu'on me dise « Ah mais pourquoi Zaro, t'as pas posé telle question? Pourquoi t'as pas demandé ci? Pourquoi t'as pas demandé ça ?» Moi, j'avais le choix, en fait, entre ne rien faire, c'est-à-dire je laisse tomber l'interview, ou je respecte le cadre imposé. Et je vous cache pas que sincèrement, j'ai hésité. J'ai vraiment hésité. Et puis finalement, je me suis dit, on va quand même maintenir l'interview d'AVALLA. Alors AVALLA, elle ne dit pas tout, elle ne peut pas tout dire, mais après de longs mois de silence, ça me semblait utile et précieux d'écouter ce qu'elle pouvait nous dire sur ce Paris Eternal version 2021. Donc AVALLA, ce soir, elle parle. Elle n'était pas du tout obligée, après tout, de venir échanger. À Paris, c'est même la première, la seule qui vient s'exprimer. Et rien que pour ça, moi, je tenais à la remercier, même si, évidemment, j'aurais aimé pouvoir aller encore plus loin dans mes questions. 안녕하세요, AVALLA. Thank you very much for being here with us once again.
Bonjour Zaroid, and hello everyone. It's good to be back on the Zaroid.
Always good to talk with you, AVALLA. AVALLA, the last time we talked together was just after the end of the Paris Eternal 2020 season. Since then, the least we can say is that a lot of things have happened and you have not been spared. It was kind of a roller coaster for you. Did you see all of this coming, AVALLA?
At first, of course, I did not see this coming at all. But in the recent weeks, I have been more and more confident than ever. Like this off-season was a really unique season where so many players were free agents, and there has been a lot of upcoming talent and contenders. And throughout the tryouts, we were able to field a competent roster, and we are really excited to show the world what the EU talent can achieve this year.
Yeah, but by roller coaster, I mean all, departures, the new project, new roles as well for you. You had to build a team from scratch with no player, no coaching staff. So how did you feel?
I felt very overwhelmed and very tired because obviously I had a lot of work. But now I think I am more on the positive side, and COVID-19 has made many things very obscure for us and confusing for us, and we did everything we can on the team front to make things better for everyone that is involved.
And emotionally speaking, how did you deal with that? Because you had friends, you worked with players for a long time. It's tough to say goodbye.
Yeah, I came from a lot of teams where I had to say goodbye to my former friends and my former players. Like with Washington last year, like nobody was left on the team, and same with like this year, nobody is left on the team with me. But it's something that you learn to do as a professional working in esports, and I just had to endure it.
AVALLA, since the end of the season, it looks like you've been truly alone to handle Paris Eternal new project. And by new project, I mean you have to build a new team from scratch.
Yeah, just working in scouting side and fielding the roster. I was working alone, but there was also Derek from Contact, who is our VP of esports. He helped me a lot through this process, helping me mentally and not to get burnt out. So I thank Derek in the process as well.
Yeah, but you had to deal as well with the social network. You had to make videos to say goodbye, to say hello to the player. That's a lot of work for just one person, right?
But honestly, I am used to doing a lot of different things. Like I've been editing videos last season for victory moments and for comms for players as well. So it wasn't something new. Honestly, the worst part was that I was had to work in the EU and NA time zone. So I had to sleep in the afternoons. But aside from that, doing a lot of work was something that I was very used to with me being in law school, like studying always. So it wasn't really that difficult.
For how long have you been in Korea right now?
I was here since September, so almost 3 months.
All right. And in recent week, did you have moments where you were maybe exhausted, discouraged, or maybe both at the same time?
I don't think I had moments that I was discouraged at all. If anything, I was very motivated to work harder to please our fans under the given circumstances. However, like I said, the trials did take place in NA and EU time zone, and because I was in Korea all alone, the time zone has been very tough. I was working usually from 1 a.m. to 10 a.m. Korean time, so I had to sleep in the afternoons, and not being able to sleep in the normal sleeping hours were very hard. But I'm glad that it's mostly over now.
AVALLA, today you find yourself on the front lane of the Paris Eternal project. You're more exposed as well with your new role. Is it something heavy to carry, or is it something exciting for you?
It is very exciting in a way because throughout my career, I was always an assistant to something. Like at Justice, I was an assistant coach, and even last year, I was the assistant general manager. This is the first time where I don't have someone looking over me. And this means that I need to make a lot of tough decisions and sometimes take the blame for things that go wrong. It is also a position where it drives away a lot of people you used to be close with. But I understand that it is part of the job and something that I can't do anything about, really.
And all these new responsibilities is not too much? I mean, it's fine for you? You're ready to deal with it?
Yeah, it is definitely going to be a challenge, but I'm ready to face it.
And when Paris Eternal put the new project in your hands, what did they tell you? What was the roadmap?
Well, frankly, when I was doing tryouts, I didn't even know whether I was going to work for Paris Eternal next year. But once the tryouts were over, I was told that the team really appreciates all the work that I did and think very highly of me and wanted me to become the general manager for Paris, which I was really happy about. And we, like the Paris Eternal, are one of the 2 teams that represent the EU region. So we take that responsibility in promoting EU players and developing the EU talent. And that is what is planned ahead of us this year with our full EU roster.
Yeah. Did you talk with Drew McCourt?
I did not talk to him directly.
Do you know if he's still interested in the Paris Eternal project?
Yes, of course, he is very engaged. He is making every decisions, he is approving every player that we are getting. So he is very much involved in this process.
So he gave you guidelines for the new project in 2021, like a full EU roster, for example?
Yeah, he wanted to build a Western roster. I believe that EU roster was going to be a lot more stronger than a mix of NA or EU or a Korean roster. So I heavily promoted that we would go for an EU roster, and that was something that Drew also thought would be a good idea given our circumstances.
It's not too hard when you can't really talk directly with Drew McCourt?
There is someone in our upper management that has been the bridge between me and Drew, and he is doing an amazing job, so it's not that difficult.
It's not Derek?
No, it's not Derek.
All right.
It's someone else.
And he knew what he's doing? He knew Overwatch or not really?
No, he doesn't really know competitive Overwatch. That is why the team is believing in the scouting I'm doing a lot, and they're just giving me guidance to things that could go better or the future guidelines. But yeah, they are giving me a lot of responsibility and power to do things.
Then now you're general manager. What is your new role and your new influence within the team?
Yeah, big part of my job, obviously, coming into the GM role was to scouting and drafting the players for our team. I was very fortunate that I was set up in this position very well. 9K last year, our former GM and also our coach for Paris Eternal asked me to keep a scouting report for players in both EU and NA contenders. So all this year, I watched a lot of contenders and I knew exactly what kind of talent we were dealing with. So also, since we did not have any coaching staff, my role was to find a new coaching staff that will lead our players well and set them up for success, obviously. And during the season, I will work closely with our social media team to provide content for our fans and help our fans engage with our players better like I used to. And above that, I'll take care of player responsibility and general logistics of the team as well.
So talking about the trials, the Paris Eternal tryout, did you organize everything alone?
Yes, everything alone.
Really? So you did select the player, you contact every one of them?
Yeah, all alone. It's going to be a long story, so if you don't mind me talking about it.
Yeah.
I owe a lot of our tryout success to our former GM 9K because he has given me many brilliant ideas and guidance to making a successful tryout. So our tryout was really unique in that we tried out not only players, but coaches as well. I didn't really feel confident in just choosing the coaching staff after a single interview. I wanted to bring on a coaching staff which players can rely on and trust, because from experience, the prime issues a team will fall apart is because the players are losing faith in the coaches. I have experienced that myself. And after having an exceptional staff from last year, it really gave me the confidence on exactly what to look for in a good coaching staff. And so because we had... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. I was thinking, what did you learn from Rush, from 9K to prepare the tryouts?
I retained a lot of things. The thing was that I'll discuss this in future in relation to our tryout process, but they were always giving feedbacks in a very logical way and in a very visual way as well. So their coaching style is something I took account into when I was looking for coaching staff as well. So if I explain a little more, because we had coaching staff doing tryouts in the entire process, the players were able to receive live feedbacks, and this isn't often the case in a lot of other tryouts. And because in other tryouts, coaching staff is selected before, and then there are a limited number of coaching staff who needs to scout and evaluate a large number of players at the same time. So at first, the players felt this format was a little weird, but in the end, a lot of players gave me positive feedback as they were able to adjust their play style live and improve throughout the tryout. One player even said they learned more from this tryout than they did in an entire year of contenders, which is crazy. I also asked the players to evaluate the coaching staff they had designated for certain scrim blocks. This allowed me to not only learn how a player thought about a particular coach, but also allowed me to learn the player's personality. And this entire process has allowed me to be confident in the coaching staff we will select for the team.
It was not harder for you to supervise the player and at the same time the coach?
Yeah, it was extremely hard, but the players and the coaches were all very cooperative. So it was what made the job a little more easier. I know I talked a lot already, but I haven't even got to the players tryout process yet. So let me explain a little bit about that too.
Yeah.
Our tryouts were consisted of 3 different phases. We had about 60 players from both EU and NA region try out in our tryouts. In the first phase, we wanted to see how players react to different comps on an individual level. So we forced 1 to 3 heroes per map that has to be selected. For example, on Lijiang, we had players had to play Zen and Brick, or on Numbani, players had to play Echo, but other heroes they could pick and change at their own will. So this allowed us to see which heroes each player was confident on and could play well. And we were able to evaluate the general skill level of a player in phase 1. And then after phase 1, we slimmed down this number to 60 players into 30 players, half for phase 2. And phase 2 was the flower of our tryouts, I think, because last year when hero bans were implemented, the level of adapting and identifying the correct meta quickly was the key success to teams, I think. So in phase 2, what we did was we implemented a hero ban system. So in this phase, the players were put into 4 different teams, and they belonged to one team throughout the whole phase 2 process, which allowed them to build synergy and improve even if they did bad on certain days. So players were given 24 hours to come up with a plan for a certain hero ban. I also gave the players map pools to go along with the hero bans to create an environment that is very similar to what they would experience in the Overwatch League. So, for example, in day 1, our hero ban was Ball, Tracer, Reaper, and Baptist. And our coaching staff wasn't allowed to participate in the discussion of hero bans because from experience, meta adaptability came the best when it came from players. And this allowed us to identify a player's understanding of the game and how active they were in team discussions. So players like Naga and Neptuno extremely shine in this particular phase where they were able to lead discussions and come up with hero composition that could be defined as meta. And while certain teams only came up with one comp they would play, teams with like Naga and Neptuno under their like discussion leadership thought about comps that enemy might be able to play and how their team would counter it, and this led to the success of their teams. Coaches then took these comps that the players suggested to do map reviews on how they would run certain comps in a given map pool. And map review was something that our previous coaching staff, 9K, Rush, 8, and Levy, did really well. And for me, this part of the tryout was essential when I was evaluating the coaches. And also, we looked at how the coaching staff were able to adapt when the original comp they thought was good wasn't strong. And what some teams chose to just mirror what the other team was doing, whereas some teams analyzed their issue and adapted their playstyle. And this was how I was able to evaluate the coaches better. Coaches also did one-on-one with players, where they focused on developing individual player skills as well as mental coaching. So the players then gave us feedback on how they thought about coaches one-on-one and allowed me to get a good evaluation of the coaches as well. So this phase, once again, was a truly amazing period where we were able to not only see the player skill levels, but how passionate they were with our team and how much knowledge they had in the game. Because we think that a team driven by smart players has a better chance of a success in the long term.
Yeah, for sure.
And
how long did it last? Phase 1, phase 2?
Phase 1 lasted about like a week, phase 2 lasted another week, and then phase 3 lasted another week. So in phase 3, our final phase, we cut down the team to 2 teams of 7 players, so 14 players in total. And we ran many different styles of composition. Some were rush, some were dive, some were spam comps, but all the comps were done in mirror. So this was to objectively identify player skill level in certain heroes under a similar situation. We even the teams out by having a draft system where one coach of a team would choose players they want to take one at a time. Mm-hmm. So for example, Coach A would pick Naga, and then the Coach B's team would automatically get the other flex DPS player for their team. And this was to create a competitive team that was balanced, and because the players were once again based on the same team throughout the whole phase, they were able to rely on each other, work hard with each other, and build their synergy in the little time they had. And it was actually interesting because despite the team drafting that we did and tried to making the teams even, one team did so much better than the other team at first. But as they play with each other, the team that didn't do so well at the start were able to improve by working as a team. And since one team lost a lot at the start, we were able to see how players would respond to an environment where they weren't winning a lot. And the mentality like players like Naga showed in this phase was like insane, because he was positive even if the team lost, and actively searched for a solution that could really improve their performance. So in the final phase of phase 3, we wanted to make sure one more time, and what we did was we changed around some players to see if certain players had a big impact on the team's success. And doing this allowed us to see how some players can even shine on a team that was losing. So after phase 3, we asked players for evaluations on not only the coaching staff, but on other players as well, because they played on the same team environment for a long time. And we asked players who they thought deserved the spot in the final roster out of the players they played with. And we also asked who you think was hard to play against on the enemy team because they were so good. And players like Onigod received 11 vouchers from players out of the 13 other players we trialed in the final phase.
Oh, he popped off.
So yeah, he really popped off. And of course, we didn't only base our final decision on these feedback methods, but their feedback really allowed us to understand how the players felt. And with this extensive tryout process, we were confident that we were evaluating players very thoroughly. We truly awarded the player performance. We had many positive feedback from the players that participate in our tryouts. Like, for example, they really appreciated the team environment we promoted in this tryout, and it didn't feel like just a regular pickup game format that a lot of tryout teams do. And a lot of players felt like they were on a mini team with designated team and felt really close and comfortable even in a tryout environment. Some even said that the tryout went so fast, and how this was a really unique experience because it was the first time they have seen a team run tryouts in this way. And their positive feedback really helped us gain the confidence that we were heading in the right direction.
And how many blocks every day?
We usually had 2 blocks a day.
Okay, so like 4 hours.
4 hours. 4 hours, yeah.
All right, and you told us you started with 60 players from NA and EU. How many coaches did you start with?
We started with around 8 to 10 coaches. I can't recall exactly, but it was around that number.
All right, and in phase 3, only 2 coaches, 1 per team?
Yeah, so in phase 2, we decided on a head coach that we wanted to pick. And in phase 3, we were deciding which coach should make to the final decision. So we tried out 2 coaches at the end.
All right. And when you decided to, okay, this is going to be a whole coach for next season, he took part of the selection of the team. I want this player. I don't want this one.
Yeah, the head coach, especially because he was pretty much decided by phase 2, he gave me a lot of input into how he was evaluating players. And it was actually insane that the way he viewed certain players, actually, like, we agreed on a lot of stuff with me too. So we were able to put in a lot of his coaching opinion in as well as mine.
And what was the hardest part for you during the tryouts?
The most hardest part for me, for sure, was making difficult decisions on players every phase, because we were cutting so many players after every phase. There was really such a lot of talent in the Western scene, but since obviously our team had limited number of roster spots, we had to give up on some of the players, unfortunately, and we had to make very difficult objective decisions. This meant that we had to take a step back away from personal relationship and biases and understand that some decisions may not be a fan favorite, but that is the job I have to take on as a general manager, and if people criticize me for it, then it is something that I have to accept, I feel like. And
did you like it to be more involved in the competitive side of the team?
Yeah, this year when I was scouting contenders players for 9K, I actually really enjoyed the process. I was reaching out to a lot of T2 players, congratulating on their wins and stuff like that all this year. So taking that and putting it into the competitive side actually really rewarded me for all the scouting that I did this year. And also part of me kind of missed being a coach after me just being a manager over the whole last year. So looking at scrims for the first time in a year was really fun and really exciting.
You missed it from Washington DC?
Yeah, I missed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
just a little bit though.
and do you plan for next season to be more involved directly with the competitive side of the team?
I mean, I do plan to be closer to the players than I did before because in the past, getting along with players wasn't really my number one priority, especially during my coaching staff days. But throughout the tryouts, I was able to build personal relationship with players because I was talking to them a lot about what they think about their players, what they think about the coaches, and I already feel so close to a lot of our new roster players. And although I did have a lot of say in the final roster and the coaching staff, I don't want to be like bossing them around when it comes to the competitive side, especially with like the meta or which player gets to play. So if they need my help, of course, I'll help out. But what I want to focus on is I want to focus on building a good environment where the players can succeed in.
Yeah, that's the first step to build a good environment, and the structure is following you on this side, giving you enough resources to build something great.
Yeah, the ownership and the team has actually been really good in supporting my decisions and everything I do. They were actually treating me really nicely. I got a promotion, I got a raise, and they're doing a lot of things for me that a lot of other teams I don't think will be willing to do for me. And I really thank the management and ownership for supporting me and giving a lot of resources that I can work with so that our players can succeed.
Yeah, but talking about resources, they gave you some guideline about some cheap player, right? I mean, no buyout, minimal salary. That's what we heard about.
Yeah, there were certain restrictions or certain guidance that I was given. But I feel like even under those guidance, because there are so many talents this year because of all the free agent players and all the new contenders players, I feel like it was something that didn't really restrict me in my final decisions.
On a level side, because some people, they say a lot that there's a big gap between contenders and OWL. What do you think?
Mm-hmm. Honestly, I don't think there is like a really, really big gap. All the top players from contenders always tend to play well in AO. For example, Sparkle and Hanbin, when they first joined the league, everyone said they were rookies, they cannot be trusted, and they will be bad.
Or even already stars in Korea.
But even players like Onigon or Kevster, they were regarded as like best talent in EU. People thought that they wouldn't do well in AO, but last season, I believe even players like Shockwave, I believe that a lot of people were criticizing them at the start, very doubtful that they would do well, but they are doing so well in Overwatch League. I feel like the top talents, whichever tier they are in, will always do well, and not always, but have a tendency to do well in the Overwatch League as well.
So it seems like it's the plan for the next season with Paris Eternal to bring to the team young player with a lot of potential and then maybe sell them to other team?
That I'm not 100% sure about if that is the plan, but what I really focused on this tryout was to just pick players that were good. So all these players I picked were not because of their potential or not because they were like marketable or sellable or likable by fans. I just picked them because they were the best players in tryouts. They performed the best. They brought a lot to the table. They were very active, and we felt like their team synergy between the roster that we were building was extremely good as well. And those were the reasons why a lot of these players were chosen, not because of some other reasons.
And we can understand that it was a teamwork where everyone was involved, you, the new head coach, even the players. But on Twitter, you said you're super happy with the team. I was able to build this off-season. You were able to build this off-season. Does it mean that you were the one to decide which player to keep in the team? Did you have the final word, I mean?
regarding the past players, I did not have the final word at all. When I first started working in this off season, I was told to start tryouts, and that's what I started off with. But regarding the final roster, though, me and the head coach obviously had the bigger say. And the head coach actually, the 7 players that the head coach wanted to pick was exactly same as the 7 players that I wanted to pick. Because those players, I feel like everyone will agree that those players were the ones that performed very well, and those players were the one that a lot of players who were participating in the play tryouts thought that they should get picked up. So I think it was general consensus that these players who were picked up were in the tryouts generally the ones who performed the best. And the decision, of course, although it was made by me and the head coach, it just came so much naturally.
So you're telling us that the Paris Eternal has his new head coach for 2021. Why has the head coach still not been announced?
We are still under... this is very hard to say, but it is not 100%. We do not have a head coach currently. There is someone that I would love to sign as a head coach, but it is obviously under discussion, approval, stuff like that. So I hope that we can announce someone soon. But as of right now, there is no one officially signed, and that is why we cannot officially announce.
And it's not in your hands right now. You don't have the power to say yes or no. You say,
yeah,
I like this guy, but then it's what Paris Eternal has to approve, the OWL has to approve,
Yeah, and of course the coaches has to agree on the terms that we want to offer them as well. So it's a 3-way triangle where I am like, okay, I'm going to pray that we have this head coach. All the players who are picked up are praying that we get this head coach because he is so talented. He is probably very underrated, but he is so talented. He motivates us like every day, and we would really want him.
Bagarre, AVALLA. Bagarre.
Yeah, bagarre.
So, AVALLA, on top of the trials, what is the new for you this season? What kind of things do you do now that you didn't do last year?
I mean, of course, the biggest part is scouting and picking up the roster, because last year when I joined the team, it was pretty much done. We were pretty much done with the roster at the time. The only person who wasn't signed at the time was FD God. And also this upcoming season, I also expect to talk very closely with the league in terms of the logistics as well, because that is something that 9K used to do. So now that I'm doing it, I'm also taking on a new role in the Call of Duty League. So I'll be helping with the logistics on that side as well. But other than that, during the season, I think it'll be very much similar to what I have been performing, because 9K was so busy with coaching last season, I did a lot of jobs that a general manager would do. So I don't see a lot of things changing that.
So you're already used to more or less everything, because you have to wear many hats at the same time. So sometimes I'm like, is it not too much for only one person?
I guess I'm the type of person who is a very multitask coordinated person. So doing a lot of tasks at once isn't really stressful to me. It's actually very motivating. So I don't really feel any pressure doing it. I really like it a lot.
Let's talk a bit about the first 6 new players of the team for 2021. Dance, Elivot, Neptuno, Can, they're Naga and Onigod. That's kind of a new identity for Paris Eternal. 6 European player, low budget. Is Paris Eternal back in 2019? I mean, we're just missing a French player, a bunch of French players, and we're back. We're back there.
You can say that. I think I have no idea how the scouting process or the roster process was done in 2019, but we were urgently planning to do a NA-EU mixed roster. That's why we started testing out all the NA players and the EU players as well. But honestly, during the tryouts, all the players that was left in the end were EU players. So it can look like we are in 2019, but I believe that it is a completely different season, and these players are very competent. I have a strong feeling that we're going to surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, we hope so. But what were the instructions from the organization to build the new team? And did they ask you to start from scratch? to rebuild from zero?
It was very vaguely communicated at the start, but all I knew was that we were not having any players back from last season, and that I was going to do a tryout process where I had to pick new players.
Were you surprised that there won't be any previous player in the 2021 season?
I mean, I understood that where the organization view was coming from, and given situations like COVID, I do understand that it is something that is part of a tough decision that sometimes an organization has to make. And even under those circumstances, I believe that we did pick the best EU talent that was available to us during our tryouts. So yeah, I'm confident with our roster.
Let's talk about them, and we can start if you want, maybe with Dan, who's the first one, the main tank. What were you looking at for this position?
Yeah, for a main tank position, we were obviously looking. So everyone knows that in a budget team, you can only sign minimum number of players, which are 7 players. This means that for tank and support players, you need someone who is flexible and can play every hero in the hero pool. So player like Dan is a great example of someone who can play multiple heroes. He not only plays all main tank heroes well, but he also is very good at off tank too. He is even like 4.6k on off tank heroes, so he plays a good level of Sigma, good player of Roadhog, and even Zarya as well. And during the tryouts, we were very surprised to see that Dan's leadership is one of his strongest points. He has very clear mid-fight and pre-fight plans. He utilizes his DPS players very well. And one more thing to add is that his mechanic is like very good for a main tank player. I mean, the fact that he can play DPS at such a high rank just goes to show how his mechanical skills are very good. And it is a valuable asset, especially when you play heroes like Wrecking Ball. But personality-wise, he is actually very funny. He's almost like Sparkle last year. So he is someone who entertains the team so much.
And what was his behavior during the tryout? You said he was a real leader, right?
So he was always the one who was actively making calls on what to do for certain fights, what to plan, how we need to do this fight. And he was always calling the DPS to like dive in with him, do little calls like that. And that was what really impressed us. Yeah, he popped off a lot of times. I was talking about the vouching system. Very like 2/3 of the players who participated in tryouts gave him the vote that he should be absolutely picked up. He got insanely amount of positive feedback from our coaches and people who are trying out to be our coaches. Yeah, so we were very confident in him as a player, and I think he'll do really well and surprise a lot of people.
In front lane, the other one will be Elivot. What can you say about him? Did you know him from Washington Justice? Did you work together?
Yeah, I was actually the person who scouted Elivot in Washington Justice, who said we should absolutely pick this player up along with our other coach, MKL. It is really, really rare to find an off-tank that can play all off-tank heroes at a consistent level. Like, I was very impressed with Elivot Zarya and D.Va in particular. It is hard to find the off-tank who can pop off on Zarya as much as him. And I know that we are in 2-2 lock, but during our tryouts at Washington, I was like so surprised at the high level of play he can play as a DPS player. His Sombra was insane, his Fire was insane. So knowing that, I know that this player is very flexible and he can learn new heroes quickly. So yeah, Elivot is someone that I am really excited to have on the team again.
Can you talk a bit about his personality?
Yeah, he is. I've known him obviously since the Justice days, and to this day, I believe he is a very hard grinder who always puts the team first. So he is very preserved as a player, but he always tries hard, and that is something that I think is really important, like a strong motivator.
What about the next one? We know him quite well. He's Neptuno.
Yes, Neptuno. So for main support, I believe what I think coming from a main support player myself, I believe that he not only has to track ults, but he also has to come up with a team plan because he is a player position where it requires the least amount of mechanical skill. And Neptuno actually had insane comms. His 4 years of player experience in the Overwatch League means that he has experienced so many different metas that he can adapt to. And he was teaching players during our phase, especially in phase 2 when we had hero bans. His comms really shine because he was able to counter the comms. He was able to come up with a plan if things didn't go well, and he was able to teach different players what they should be doing in a certain comp. And personality-wise, Neptuno is really like the mother hen of the team. Almost. He mentors other young players so well and is a natural leader. So that is one of the reasons why we picked him up.
Yeah, Neptuno said on Twitter he was quite rusty after not screaming for more than 8 months, and then he played a lot 24/7 during his holiday to perform in tryout. You were surprised by his level?
Yeah, honestly, before going into tryouts, I thought Neptuno's Mercy was good, but other heroes were very questionable. But we trialed out, as I said, so many players, and he was the one that was most mechanically standing out. Even FD God, before he was traded to Shock, came into our tryouts to help evaluate main support, and he agrees that Neptuno did so well in tryouts, both mechanically, and his comms carried the teams. Like, in phase 2, his team was always winning because he was giving out insane plans on what they should be doing. So his team won like all the scrims, and that is why we really value him as a player.
Some people are a bit concerned with his age. We know that in esports, when you pass the 20 years old, you're almost a retired player, but he's 28. He's 28. You're not scared about that?
So actually, something interesting about main support is that it doesn't really require a high mechanical level, unlike a DPS player. So like players like Toby or Ryu Jae-hong, who are like way older. I know Ryu Jae-hong is not really a main support player, but even at an older age, they were able to perform very well. And I believe that main support as a player is a position where even if a player is older, they can have a lot of value because, as I said, planning the fights are very important, and that is where a lot of experience comes on. And honestly, there is not that many young main supports in the league, unlike other positions where they are always like filled with like young upcoming talents. And I believe that Neptuno was able to show us that even if he's old, he is mechanically the number 1 player in our tryouts, and that is something that I am very confident going in.
There's something funny he said as well on Twitter. He said that for all those concerns about his toxicity, please don't worry, I'm still toxic. What do you think about that? It's quite a character, Neptuno, right?
Yeah, Neptuno has a very strong character, which is funny because I think he is generally the nicer player one of the nicer players on our team. He is always helping players. There were some issues that the players on the team were having, and he was the one who was helping them out in such a difficult situation, and he is someone that I think our players go to if they need help. So on the outside, although he may look toxic, in the inside I think he is very warm-hearted and helps a lot of the players.
You said about him that he gonna guide your new talents. What do you expect from Neptuno?
So obviously some of our talents, younger talent like Naga, Dan, Khan, not much for Naga, but they haven't experienced certain metas just because they were not competitively playing at the time. So although they know how to play, for example, a hero like Winston, they might know what kind of style to play in a Tracer, Genji, Lucio Zen meta. So because Neptuno has that experience, he can tell what a main tank should be doing in this position. So he's almost like a second coach or a third coach in the team. He is like the brain. And one thing is that coaches cannot tell you what to do in match days. But Neptuno, even because he's a player, he can tell them what to do on match days. And that kind of guidance will be huge when players feel like they're lost during the matches.
All right, let's talk about a bit about Khan, the flex support you choose for the team.
Khan is actually mechanically insane. He was originally a DPS player, for those who don't know. So his aim is, I'll be the best. He used to be top 10 in EU ladder. So his aim is mechanically gifted. And he knows how to make it difficult for a DPS player to kill him. I was very surprised, because I've seen so many flex support players during my time as a support coach in the Overwatch League, but I have very rarely seen a player play like this. He makes it so hard for DPS players to kill him. He baits a lot, and that is what I was really impressed with. But personality-wise, Khan is very introverted at first. I thought at first he didn't want to come to the team, or he didn't like me because he was so introverted. But once I got to know him, he is secretly really funny, and I've been having a lot of fun working with him.
Did you talk with his actual teammate in Obey Alliance?
Actually, I talked with Kasores, who is now the Shock assistant coach, and who used to be with Young and Beautiful. I got reference from that, and also Dan and Khan played in open division teams together, and Naga obviously is on the same team with Khan. So for all of these players that I picked up, I got references from a lot of their former teammates or former coaches, so that I know that nothing major will be an issue with them.
Let's talk about Naga, his teammate with Obey Alliance. He has been on the competitive scene for so long.
Yeah, for 4 years. So Naga actually has improved tremendously over the last year, because I remember his tryouts 1 year ago, or him at the start of the Contenders season this year, and he looks like almost a completely different player compared to the player he was now. This goes to show that despite 4 years of competitive experience under him, he is still developing at a fast pace. And for him to have a good coaching staff, I believe that he will actually improve even more, because Contenders obviously does not always have the greatest coaching system like an Overwatch League can have.
You don't have coaching staff at all in Obey Alliance.
Yeah, so. In Obey Alliance, there is no coaching staff. So if a player can play this well without a coaching staff and win EU Contenders, I'm really excited to see what he can do in an actual team environment where he can really focus on getting help from the coaches and getting better himself.
You said as well he was always cheering up his team despite the loss or stuff like this, the difficulties. So he has a good mindset, right?
Yeah, he has such a kind heart, and he just cares a lot about other players. And even if you're losing, he's like, guys, it's okay. Our current problem is like this. We need to work on this. And for me to work on this, we have to do this. And he was always taking initiative and always leading discussions. So I feel like he is a player, even if the situation go bad, he can always turn the team atmosphere around.
Yeah, and he's talking a lot as well for a DPS player, right?
Yeah, I have not seen a DPS player talk as much as him, which is a really good thing, because Sparkle, for example, when he plays Genji, he talks so much. He talks like what he needs the team to do, and he leads the team really well. And Naga's calm, almost, I felt like was kind of like what Sparkle would do, like asking team what to do, asking for resources, and those kind of initiative in a flex DPS player is really important.
The other one on DPS position is well-known, Onigod. He played for Dallas Fuel this year. What can you say about Oni? You said that he popped off and everyone wanted him.
Yeah, he is an insane DPS player that can still manage to get their job done, even if in a situation that is not optimal. To be fair, Onigod in tryouts were on the team that was losing a lot, but despite that, he was doing so well that everyone thought that he needed to be picked up. During the tryouts, he was always the brightest point of the team, even when they lost. And yeah, I'm really excited to see him. Personality-wise, Oni has a very easygoing character, so he is someone that you can really easily work around with. And I think the 6 players and the 7th player that we haven't signed yet, they all work so well personality-wise. So I think this team really likes each other. They're super motivated. They want to prove that they can play well. They know that we are rated probably as a bottom 3 team, but they are really excited to show that that is not what you're going to be expecting, and that they will do well in the upcoming 2021 season.
You said on Twitter you're super happy that Onigod chooses to join your team, Paris Eternal. Do you mean that you was competing against other team to get Onigod?
Players like Oni and Naga, there were other options available to them. I mean, all the other players did too, but especially Oni and Naga, it was quite a competition personally. And during the tryouts, I was always like wondering, how many teams do they have tryouts with? Like, are they in the final phases? And there were definitely other options available to him, but I'm happy that he chose to join our team.
How did you convince him to join the team? What did you say?
So actually, I didn't say anything. All the communication was through tryouts. They were really impressed with our tryout process, and they were able to trust the team in terms of the management side. And they thought that our roster was stronger than the other roster they were taking part of. And them seeing like a competent roster, a roster that can play really well, was the key decision for them to join our team.
What do you expect about this team?
Our ambitions are honestly high. Like just like last year, when a lot of power rankings were ranking Paris as a bottom 5 team, we are once again an underdog team, and it's okay. Like we believe that we can pull a lot of upsets throughout the season and even do really well in tournaments when the meta is right. I like that people don't think that we'll be a strong team, because then we can surprise them with a lot of our performances. And I honestly do think that this team has a lot of potential to do well.
So now you've announced 6 players, but they're still missing at least one. When do you plan to announce the last player? Maybe not the last, maybe there will be more, or you're gonna stop at 7 player?
7 player is probably the optimal number of player that we are thinking right now. Our 7th player, we're still under negotiation. So we hope that we will be able to sign this 7th player that we really want to join our team. And when that is finalized, we plan to announce shortly after. But until then, we cannot. It's just like the same issue with the coaches.
What will be his position for the last player? DPS, tank, support?
Yeah, the last player will be a DPS player, probably a Tracer Sombra focused player, because Oni God is mainly focused on heroes like Widowmaker, Ashe, stuff like that. And although he has a strong Tracer, I believe our 7th player has a very strong Tracer that will be very useful in the double head scan meta, which has taken over like half of the metas in the Overwatch League.
Can we play just a little game to conclude about the new player? Can you tell us one quality and one area for improvement for each player in the team?
Onigat, his strongest point is Widowmaker, Ashe, traditional hit scan. Naga, his strongest point is flex DPS players, including Echo and Pharah. And Naga actually also has a strong Tracer, which is also a good part, because there are sometimes times where a flex DPS player needs to change to a Tracer. Dan's like Wrecking Ball is probably his best hero, and Wrecking Ball has been broken for so long that he has been the meta for like the last 6 months. Elivode, his Zarya and D.Va can always come into clutch. Neptuno, I think, although a lot of people speak highly of his Mercy, I think right now his Brig is like his strongest character, at least during the trials. He was like popping off on Brig by far. And Khan, like Ana and Zen, is probably his strongest hero. And we were actually so surprised that Khan's Lucio was actually insane. So in tryouts, when he was able to pick any hero, he actually picked Lucio, and he showed insane wall rides and insane like aim. I thought I was watching FD God almost.
Really?
But that was something, that I was like really surprised with. And apparently Lucio's primary fire is same speed as Genji's Shuriken, and because Khan used to be a DPS player, that's why his aim is so good. But his Lucio play was actually like insanely high level. I was like so surprised. So if ever there becomes a Lucio Mercy meta, which we did see briefly in EU contenders, I think Khan's Lucio would actually be a very, very valuable asset to the team. And for our 7th player, his strongest point is obviously Tracer. I believe that he will be a very good player in terms of a double hit scan meta. He also plays Hanzo very well, so I am excited. I do hope that we can send him. If we can't, then unlucky we'll have to pick another player, but yeah, that is what I think of right now. And as for improvements, it would need some time for us to really evaluate and for the team to figure out. But when we identify it, we believe in the coaching staff's ability to do a very good job on fixing those improvement points.
And now, so we have 6 players, but is there any chance to see some French people, players or coaches in Paris in 2021?
I cannot say as of now, but that is something that I feel like as our roster announcement happen, the fans will find out very soon. So until then, I have my lips zipped.
And when you say very soon, what does it mean? It means like in a few days, in a few weeks?
Roster needs to be, at least 7 players need to be signed by January 3rd. So there is less than a month left for us to announce this player and this coaching staff when we have it decided.
What is why are you waiting? I mean, you said that I would like this player, but we're not sure yet if we can get him. What's the problem? I mean, with the last player.
It is very difficult for me to say. There is a lot of things that go into hand, like league approval, like team approval, players like discussing about like their contract forms. There's a lot of things that go into that, and honestly, I'm not sure because that issue has left my hand. So yeah.
Talking about the location for the team next year in 2021. So you lived in New York. Right now with COVID situation, visa issue and stuff like this, where do you plan to live in 2021? We just saw that Philadelphia Fusion will go in Asia, for example. Paris will be in Asia next season? Or,
that is something that is undecided as of now. So when we know where we will be located in, we will definitely discuss and talk with the fans, just like Philadelphia Fusion did. But so far, it is undecided, so I cannot say as of now where we will be located in. Like, I don't even know where I'll be located in next year.
Okay, but for now, you're in Korea. You plan to join the team and live with them, or you will stay in Korea?
I do plan to relocate to NA. I'm currently working on the visa process, but honestly, I am unsure. I don't know.
So you're telling us that maybe next season the player won't be all together in the same building, in the same city, even in the same country?
Oh, I'm honestly unsure because nothing has been decided. So I just don't know, and that's something that I can't answer because I just do not have those information.
All right. AVALLA, to conclude the interview, what have you planned for Christmas and New Year's Eve?
This will be the first break that I will be really getting ever since I have started doing work in this off season. I'm glad to finally have a break and spend Christmas as well as New Year's Eve with like family. I heard that COVID is really bad in Europe right now. It is honestly really bad in Korea right now as well. So I wish our fans, you, and everyone who is watching this interview to be safe and have a happy holidays.
It's the same for the player. They're actually in holidays right now, or you had them to work hard?
Yeah, obviously a lot of our players, like 5 of our players actually, are participating in Gauntlet.
Yeah.
So because they're participating in Gauntlet, we're not doing any team practice. We plan to start practice in January. At least that is our initial plan. Things might change, but for now they are on break.
AVALLA, what have you ordered from Santa Claus for Paris Eternal? What is your wish list?
My wish list, I hope for a strong regular season and a playoff showing for our upcoming season. And also part of my wish list is for our fans to give support to our new players and hope for their success as well.
Talking about the fan, do you have maybe a message for the Paris Eternal fan?
Yeah, this is the 3rd year of Paris Eternal and the 4th year for the league. And just like the ones before, we have had changes in our roster. I understand that you may be worried about some players, especially if you are not really familiar with EU contender scene and NA contender scene. but I hope that you give us your welcoming and support, because we did put in a lot of effort to select our roster that will be both confident and making our fans proud. And I'll also personally work really hard to help with the team's success. And also, thank you once again for the amount of love and support you have given me and our team this off-season. I have nothing but received so much love from all our fans. And I hope that you guys and you, Zared, also have an amazing rest of the year. And we hope to see you soon when we return to the Overwatch League in 2021 season. And I know that it's your birthday soon, right?
Yeah, in a few days. 4 days right now.
Yeah, I wanted to, while I'm here, wish you a happy birthday, bon anniversaire. I know that you didn't mind, so I wanted to really congratulate your birthday.
감사합니다. Thank you very much. And to conclude with the fun, do you have maybe a message? Because of course there's still a lot of question which remains. People that don't really understand, and I'm part of them. Why Ben, Nico, Soon are not part of the team next year, and why right now Paris Eternal doesn't want or can talk about it. Do you have something to say about that?
Yeah, I understand our fans' frustration for our lack of communication. We hope that in the future that we can do a better job of communicating, and I believe that we will. So I ask for your patience, and going into the next season, I hope our communication can really step it up and give you all the answers that you guys should be getting.
You will give us answers soon?
Well, I can't really guarantee because I do not know the answers for some of the questions that our fans have. But hopefully, moving forward, our communication will get better, and we will not leave you with questions that are remaining in your heads.
Okay, we believe in you, AVALLA, once again. And
thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Thank you very much for coming here and talk about the new Paris Eternal project. Enjoy the end of the year. Take a good rest, and we send you a lot of energy to do your best with the means Paris Eternal gives you this next season. And please, AVALLA, take at least one French player, otherwise the community will get angry.
Thank you, Zara, for having me on the show. Like always, I'm sorry that I could not answer some of the most desirable questions that people wanted to ask me. That is currently the stance I stand right now. But I hope that you guys will at least see our players perform in Gauntlet, because they are currently performing in Gauntlet under Dubai Sandstorm, under New Kings, under Obey Alliance. So if you want to see how these players perform and what kind of heroes they can play and what they're capable of, do check out the EU Gauntlet that is coming up.
We will. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zared.
Again. Bye-bye.
Merci.
AVALLA.
Bye.